Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So there is quite a lot to talk about with the changes that are on the PTR. Each of them in particular look quite interesting but nothing substantial, so to speak. But when you look at them all together, there is a real common trend between all of them. And me and OneAmongstMany do a lot of talking about meta changes on this stream in our own spare time. So we decided to sort of sit down and talk about these various changes and try and work out what Blizzard were trying to do with them. This is something we haven't quite done in a while, so do let us know if you like it in the comments below. We'll be sure to do more of these, but see it as like a what's the meta forecast, I suppose. But let us know what you think. If the videos are too long, for example, let us know in the comments below. We can shave them down for future episodes. But we got a lot to go through, so let's get started. So we have 4 major changes that are on the PTR, all to do with heroes that have kind of not necessarily had a great time so far. I've found some use, but not an awful lot. Certainly not in inverted commas meta. With all 4 of these changes that are on the PTR, what's the first one that really caught your attention with actual changes? Because I imagine the Widowmaker one obviously caught your attention.
The Widowmaker one really caught my attention. There is a live stream reaction of it catching my attention out there, actually. Like, I just went through them in order, and then I saw the Widowmaker one, and it's just like, oh my god, are they insane? Because Widowmaker as a hero is like, she's not bad. Like, a lot of these things are just like, they're flat out buffs to all these heroes. Like, they're just straight buffs. It's not like the give and take we've seen from Blizzard so far. So there's just buffing everything that on these weaker heroes. But Widow's not really in that situation. She's more a victim of the meta, where like if the meta is bad for Widow, you just don't see Widow. So, you know, Winston's in the meta at the moment, so you don't see Widow. Tanks are in the meta before, so you don't see Widow. And now it's just like, oh my god, the Venom Mine change especially is pretty enormous, because it now makes Venom Mine feel a lot like Sonic Arrow, you know? So if you've been hit by that Venom Mine, it just feels like, hey, I can't go around this corner anymore, I can't do anything, and it's going to make it so much harder for stuff like Genji especially. He's going to have a hard time just getting to her, he's going to have to use his deflect earlier perhaps, McCree's and stuff like that can't go around corners anymore if they get hit by the Venom Mine. It's huge, it's terrifying, plus the grapple change is pretty enormous.
I think you have a good example of what Blizzard have been trying to do so far, especially when you look at the Roadhog change as well, which no doubt we will talk about a little later on. But you have these changes, you have these heroes first and foremost that have had something taken away from them. You know, Widowmaker used to be this really quick fire shot, and then she was made a little bit more clunky. And then Roadhog as well was taken away, like his one-shot ability for the most part. So it's nice to see Blizzard actually buffing these heroes, but also been very clear, like, what the hero used to be is not going to resurface again. We're not going to revert the changes to Roadhog. We're not going to make Widowmaker have a snappier shot, being able to sort of quick scope and stuff like that. They are approaching it a different way, which is quite interesting considering both of these heroes were really strong back in the day, had a significant nerf to the point that they weren't played anymore, but have had other things handed to them.
Yeah, and I mean, just in general, like, patching, like every single patch that Blizzard comes out with, it's usually, you know, they'll buff one thing and nerf another at the same time, but these are just all outright buffs to everything. I mean, I don't know if you've tried the new Roadhog, but the fact that you can now just run around while healing really does change how the character feels. Before, you had this great big window where it was just like, oh, I'm vulnerable now, oh, I can take a ton of damage, and when you're fighting a Roadhog, you want to exploit that window, right? You know, he's sort of stunned and can't move, so you want to get in there, do a ton of damage to him, build up your ultimate or whatever, and now that window just isn't there. And like, I found myself thinking, I don't actually really want to shoot him either. I want to sort of save, you know, my tracer clip or save my Widowmaker shot or save whatever when the 50% damage reduction's gone, because that's better for me as well. Like, it's more ultimate charge for me. And so it just creates this interesting dynamic of now Roadhog just feels a lot less vulnerable and is just a lot scarier as a result. It's also just fun just sort of giggling and running away, huffing your paint can and feeling like a complete rascal. He's slippy now.
It's like when I used to be chubby with my asthma and inhalers, basically. But I was really surprised with how good it actually felt. I think a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way when we saw, it was either Jeff Goodman, I think it was Jeff Goodman that sort of brought it up on the forums. That just sounds really boring. Like, why would that make so much of a difference? It just means that you're going to die a little bit slower in a lot of fights. But the thing that I think a lot of people, including ourselves, didn't account for is just how aggressive you can now be as Roadhog. Like, nowadays, you can just sort of run at people, huff a paint can if you need to, and use your left clicks to just get so close to people and really close down that distance. And for the first time in a while, Roadhog feels like an actual tank instead of this DPS, slow, clunky hybrid thing. he now actually feels that somebody that could body block a lot of damage with his face now.
It's also like, just because, again, that period of vulnerability you had where you just had to literally stand still and just take whatever comes at you. And Overwatch is such a mobile game, you know, fights ebb and flow and people move around the point. You can run around corners and stuff like that. So being able to move and sort of run into your team while huffing that paint can means that it's now just a lot less risky, for example, to go out and go for one of those hooks or go out and start doing some damage with those left clicks and right clicks, like you said. And I think, like, Roadhog suffered from a lot of initial shock with the, you know, the changes he had before, losing a lot of one-shots. He still can one-shot a lot of heroes and put them at really critical health pretty goddamn reliably. So it's just like, it's a mixture of people having that shock and going, oh my god, like, we have to really change how we play him, and then suddenly it feels kind of terrible to play him because Trace is strong on the meta, and there's a lot of just very aggressive people, a lot of very aggressive players in the meta, so being unable to punish people instantly is, you know, a bad thing for now, for Roadhog. And so now that that change is sort of passed, now that I think people are getting more and more used to the new Roadhog, having this extra buff on top will make him feel way better, I think. And like you said, it sounded kind of boring and it sounded kind of bland, but when you see it in action and you see like a Roadhog running away around a corner from me, it's like, I can't just shoot him, I can't abuse him anymore. It feels way stronger.
If I had to describe the change in one word, it would be fluid. Like,
Yes.
Roadhog now feels really fluid to play. All of his abilities like ebb and flow into one another. You could go from a right click into a left click and sort of heal in between. And you're not sort of sat back, standing at a choke, spamming damage, throwing in a hook now and again. You can sort of move backwards and forwards. And I think certainly the new Deathmatch feature, which I guess we'll talk about towards the end of the video, because there's quite a bit to talk about there as well. I do want to focus on the changes primarily. You really get a good feeling on how he effectively now works, especially in those one-on-one situations. But pairing this as well with the other change to his best buddy Junkrat, this was a change that looked really good, but actually playing him doesn't quite feel as good as I thought it was, but it's still a nice quality of life change.
Yeah, the Junkrat change is kind of a strange one, because, you know, on paper it sounds amazing. You can hold 2 mines. Both of the mines deal like 120 damage each. There's no damage drop-off on those mines, so it's very easy to use both of them and just kill people, but they do regenerate pretty slowly, so trying to use both of them aggressively can often just sort of leave you with nothing. He still feels like he suffers from the sort of the core issue of that reliability. Now that also could speak to, you know, I haven't played Junkrat seriously in months and months and months and months. So it's like, I'm not an expert on Junkrat. Maybe if you're a really good Junkrat player, this is just like, oh my god, this is insane, and this will probably feel really powerful to people who play a ton of Junkrat. But for me, it was just a case of, this is kind of neat, but it's not kind of as cool as I was expecting. The rip tire change, I actually think is unexpected. There's a video out there floating around, and you could probably record one of these of your own, of someone using the rip tire from like first point on Iconvold and just zooming it through the map. Like, because you can just climb up a wall and you go so fast, you just launch into the air. I don't know if you've played like Hanzo in the arcade and you've just upped his move speed and, you know, you do a wall climb and you zip into the sky, but that's what Riptire is like now. Buffing Riptire does help him a bit, the concussive mine changes helps him a bit, but is it enough? I don't know. I still think Junkrat needs some love. One thing I will say with the rise of Junkrat is if Doomfist, you know, does become a huge part of the meta, we're still figuring out exactly where he fits. I know Apex...
It's looking very likely though.
Apex started, I won't date the video, but recently, to say the least. And, you know, we're seeing people experiment around where does Doomfist belong, where does Doomfist take part. Junkrat really does devastate Doomfist, because if you punch into a trap on the floor, you just get caught in the trap. And then Doomfist just doesn't like being in this close range environment where there's just a ton of damage being poured out everywhere. So if the enemy team's running a Doomfist, Junkrat could swing back in. Like I said with Widowmaker, you know, a lot of these heroes are dependent on the meta around them, not just are they balanced or are they fair. And hey, if Doomfist is strong in the meta, Junkrat could be that much better.
But anyway, you spoke about Doomfist counters, so we should probably talk about the lore counter to Doomfist, Orisa, who got some buffs as well, which are pretty good. They certainly look like they help the hero, but I just think that the main problem with Orisa is just she's not all that fun to play half the time. She doesn't have that wow factor that a lot of heroes in Overwatch have.
Yeah, Orisa's kind of a shame. It feels like, you know, everyone was expecting Doomfist, and then Orisa came out and everyone just kind of went, oh, I wanted Doomfist, and it doesn't help that she is kind of, you know, this hodgepodge of other hero abilities, and then she was sort of sold as this anchor tank, right? The idea of, oh, this could be a Reinhardt replacement, and with the current kit and the current way she works, she will never really be a Reinhardt replacement. She's too static. She doesn't move very well. She's very, very good if you're running, you know, these Torbjorn, Symmetra, Orisa comps where you just hold in a single location. There, she's very, very powerful. But outside of that, she's just never really shown and never really done anything amazing. Like, she's never really blown your socks off, aside from gimmicky stuff like, you know, pulling people into pits on Well, on Ilios, and Sanctum on Nepal. So aside from that, she's never really had a place to shine or really do anything. And I think these buffs, you know, the fusion driver buff, the increase in damage will make her a stronger off tank. That will make her really, really good against, again, like Doomfist, any big targets that she's trying to just shoot down. Her damage was already okay, so this is just making it more reliable, and that's just going to make her a bit stronger in that regard. So hey, yeah, we got another like moderately good damage off tank to sort of play around with. But it doesn't solve the core issue of, if you just don't respect the barrier, if you just don't respect the Orisa and just run through the barrier, everything behind it dies instantly, and she can't really do anything about that. And until that changes, I don't think these changes will make Orisa work, basically.
It's such a tricky thing to nail down with this hero in particular, but it's such a weird culmination of all of these buffs anyway. Like, we were expecting Roadhog, Junkrat, maybe Orisa, but like the Widowmaker one is the one that keeps catching my eye. I don't think it's going to do an awful lot with her pick rate. I think it's just going to make players a lot more comfortable on her, and players overall be okay with the idea of having a Widowmaker on their team. Roadhog, I do think is going to come back to some capacity. Orisa and Junkrat, I feel it's going to be an incline, but not as much as the other two.
Yeah, I think with Widow, like, I mean, you know, I can talk about Widowmaker all goddamn day, and I will if you let me. You know, we barely touched on the grappling hook cooldown, but the important thing about the grappling hook cooldown is, you know, we've seen heroes go before. I think Sombra had a change very similar, going from like 12 seconds to 8 seconds. It's a huge time jump. Like, it's a really, really big time jump. But the key is understanding how it relates to other abilities. So for Widowmaker, the problem is like, oh, well, Winston jumps on you and you grapple hook away, then you have 6 seconds before he can follow you, and then he follows you, and then you just don't have any options. Now it's like, okay, there's 6 seconds he can follow you, then 2 seconds later now you can grapple. And so it's just sort of working out the time scale of how well can I escape and evade. And this is just going to make Widowmaker very, very slippy and just very, very difficult. And a Widowmaker on the run, like if she's grappling up high and she's just jumping into the air, you can do some really easy air shots on people. If they're just trying to follow you directly, getting air shots, if you've been practicing and playing Widowmaker a lot, isn't necessarily that difficult. And it just gives her more windows to get more damage out, to evade people, and it will make her that much stronger. Genji is another example. Genji's cooldown pretty much matches Widowmaker's now. So like Genji and Widow can just keep pace with each other. And that's actually pretty insane, because it means that, you know, the Genji will dash, but Widow's already grappled away, and then suddenly you get this cat and mouse of, well, Widow's just going to keep evading.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of these changes actually come under the trend of pace and tempo. Like, all of them. Roadhog can move around whilst he's being able to heal. Widowmaker's grappling hook is a lot quicker. Orisa's damage is a lot faster with her projectiles. And Junkrat can move around a lot more with mines. These are all heroes that I think have struggled with being slow, in particular. With a meta that's been very divey, very mobile. And people know that that's the game that people want from Overwatch. They want these crazy, stupid heroes like Doomfist has really symbolised. So all of these changes really are an attempt to just give a little bit of ecstasy to all 4 of these heroes, just to bring up their pace and just make sure that they can keep up with everything. But really quick, Deathmatch is something that a lot of people have been asking for. I didn't expect it in a million years to happen, nor did I expect it to be so much fun. However, Team Deathmatch isn't all as great as I would like it to be.
I still haven't tried the Team Deathmatch, so I'm gonna, you know, what did you find wrong with Team Deathmatch? How much have you tried it? How much have you experimented with it?
Lack of a better word, it feels like a clusterfuck. It just you're constantly spawning in near your team, but if they've got like a Pharah or anybody that's constantly throwing damage at you, it's basically been spawn camped a lot of the time. But these may be sort of difficult experiences, I suppose. Where
it could be a matchmaking issue as well. Like, Overwatch is a game where you are used to having a matchmaker, and so at the moment I imagine, especially on PTR, like PTR matchmaking's never been great.
It's just easy to snowball, I suppose, because if
Yeah.
you're a Pharah up in the air, you're shooting damage down, you see where they spawn again, you're firing damage there, people aren't sure what left is right because you get randomly spawned around maps like the middle point of Hollywood, for example, is a zone that you can play now, and Kings Row, I'm looking at the list now, Eichenwald, Dorado, Volskaya, Anubis, Lunar Colony, Hanamura, all of these points, I'm guessing they'd be first points for those attacking maps, are just a brawl, and I think it's really disorientating when you're used to coming out of certain spawns, then being put randomly, like, on the high ground of Temple of Anubis and be like, where am I? Oh god, I've just been killed by a Pharah again, or a Widowmaker. It's just a little bit messy, but I absolutely adore Team Deathmatch in the new map. It feels like I'm playing a completely different game, and it feels nice to not care about losing, I suppose, in particular.
Yeah, like the vanilla deathmatch it surprised me as well about how fun it was and how viable a lot of heroes felt. I spent a night on the stream just sort of, first couple of rounds I played a lot of Widowmaker because, hey, I wanted to try the changes and it felt like a good way of doing it, and I like playing Widow and I had a blast doing that. And then we started experimenting around with a bunch of different heroes, and like Torbjorn turned out to be surprisingly good, where you can just dump burner turrets and then just right click into people and sort of have a strong effect like that. Anna was a little bit terrible because you have a Q button that does nothing. Mercy was also a bit terrible, unsurprisingly. Again, you've got a Q button that does nothing. I wouldn't mind seeing just something in there, Mercy just gets a point if you press Q, who knows. Anna can nano boost herself, that'll be the dream. But yeah, it's fun, and I think it's a good way of warming up as well. So you're getting ready for a night of games, you can go and play some deathmatch, get warmed up, and then feel good and go and play some competitive. Or it's just like you said, it's just nice to have this no pressure. I can just play my own game and just have fun doing it. I don't have to care that, oh, I'm potentially ruining the game for my 5 teammates, or, oh, I'm having a really bad game, therefore, I'm losing this match and losing my competitive points. I can just go and play Overwatch and have fun doing it and not feel any pressure, any looming sense of, oh, I have to perform now.
Effectively, it feels like they're taking a lot of emphasis away from competitive Overwatch. We have Lucia Ball in the game now, even though it's temporary. We have this new game mode. Everything feels that they're maybe making it a bit too casual friendly compared to sorting out stuff, the problems in competitive Overwatch, which no doubt they're looking to now. But certainly looking over the changes and the buffs that we've gone over, what is your final say? What is your conclusion with these changes?
I really like the point you were making. The fact that all of these changes seem to point to keeping the tempo of the game fast and just upping that tempo and making sure that Overwatch remains a game that is played relatively quick and mobile. I've always liked changes in Overwatch that promote mobility, that promote movement, that promote sort of keeping the game dynamic and fluid, and anything that makes it more static I've generally disliked. So seeing these changes, it warms my heart a bit. And like all of these heroes, all 4 of these heroes, maybe not so much Widowmaker, but definitely Roadhog, Orisa and Junkrat did need some love. So it kind of makes me happy to see Blizzard just going in and addressing some of these issues as well.
And certainly not nerfing any of the divey heroes that we've seen at the moment. It really feels that they've taken the Roadhog nerfs to heart, and ever since then, all of the changes that they've put out have been spot on. So I'm really excited to see how these turn out. But we're going to end it here. That's it for now. Thank you very much for watching. Do check out OneAmongstMany's channel and Twitch in the description below for more VOD reviews and coaching and stuff like that. It's pretty good to watch. Again, let us know what you thought of this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, take care. We'll see you then.